It's 1738. Years before the American Revolutionary War and before this country declares its independence, within a small colony in Delaware, the Wilmington Police become an active group known as the Watch and Ward System. The first known documentation describes a high constable and a petite constable were elected by town council to serve as day police. The night watch consisted of 5 watchmen, one for each ward of the city, an adequate force for a town with a population not yet exceeding 5,000 people. The duties of the night watch were described as follows: that the watchmen are hereby empowered, required, and directed to trim and light the city lamps in their several stations when necessary, and during the time of keeping watch, to apprehend all malefactors, rogues, vagabonds, and disorderly persons, whom they shall find disturbing the peace, or show just cause to suspect of evil designs, and to carry the person or persons, as soon as convenient, before the mayor or alderman, or some justice of the peace, to be dealt with accordingly. 1839. The nation has 26 states in the Union, and Martin Van Buren is the 8th President of the United States. In Delaware, Wilmington incorporates as a city and becomes the county seat. The constables now are commonly referred to as the city police. 1863. Officer John Bayless becomes the first officer known to be killed in the line of duty for the city of Wilmington and the state of Delaware. Bayless was arresting a subject for drunk and disorderly charges. The subject resisted arrest, disarming and killing Bayless. The killer was later found not guilty, as according to newspaper accounts, the judge reasoned that the officer was too hasty in making the arrest on the original charges. 1873. The nation grows to 38 states, and in the city of Wilmington, the population has grown to 35,000 people. An editorial appears in the local press stating that 23 police officers are not enough to effectively patrol a city that size. The Wilmington Police are encouraged to hire more officers. Years before the passage of women's suffrage, 2 women are hired by the Wilmington Police to serve as police matrons. The matrons are sworn officers with powers of arrest. However, their primary duties are to guard the female prisoners. It was stated that this was to provide more humane treatment for female prisoners. 1891. The Delaware State Legislature, at the request of the city of Wilmington, passes the Metropolitan Police Act. The act creates 3 important changes to the Wilmington Police. The first is that the Wilmington Police would be overseen by a board of commissioners. Secondly, officers would be hired on their ability to perform their duties. And thirdly, officers could only be terminated from employment for just cause, and they would be entitled to a hearing prior to termination. This marks the first professional police force in the state of Delaware. 1914. World War I is declared. In the city of Wilmington, the police force is being restructured. The detective division is created in an effort to prevent crime by tracking repeat offenders. Modern investigative techniques are utilized, and the identification unit, where all arrestees are fingerprinted and photographed, is initiated. 1915. The traffic division is created to handle the growing traffic problem with the birth of the automobile. Officers are assigned to control intersections and investigate traffic accidents. 1916. The Police School of Instruction is started, making it the first police academy in the state. All officers are required to undergo training prior to going on the street, and are required to return yearly for updated training. 1920. P.S. DuPont donates $200,000 to the Police Pension Fund, which had been started in 1907 on a shoestring budget. For the first time, the pension fund is financially solvent and officers can retire after 25 years of service with a pension. 1922. The Roaring Twenties, the riot squad is formed. It's the earliest structure of the modern SWAT team. Each officer on the squad is trained as a marksman and is equipped with his own rifle and other equipment. 1924. Matron Mary Davis is beaten to death by a female prisoner in order to escape from the police station. The woman, who was originally arrested for pointing a pistol at her husband, was later arrested and convicted for the murder. 1925. Lockmore Purnell is hired, making him the first African American police officer, and others continued to be hired in the following years. It would be 5 decades before any other department in the state would follow suit. 1930. The Great Depression hits the nation, and the Wilmington police are in more demand. The need for more vehicle patrols hits the streets. 1946. Detective Thomas Conity is shot and killed on December 26th by a 16-year-old burglar at 7th and King Streets. Detective Conity was the last Wilmington police officer killed in the line of duty. From the late 1940s through the 1950s, Wilmington is at its peak population of over 125,000 citizens. The trend begins, however, where more citizens are moving out of the city. This marks the era where crime was at its lowest point. 1959. The K-9 unit is formed, pairing officers and dogs. The unit is then disbanded 10 years later and revived in the 1990s. 1964. The Wilmington Police place shoulder patches on their uniforms for the first time. This is in addition to the breast and hat badges the officers have worn for over 100 years. In the same year, the Wilmington Park Police, which had been formed in the 1890s to patrol the city parks, is disbanded. The officers are absorbed into the regular city police force. In the early 60s, segregation is abolished in the United States, and our country begins military presence in Vietnam. By 1966, the Wilmington Police hired Ramon Rodriguez, the first Latino officer. He retires 25 years later as a sergeant. 1967. After more than a 30-year effort, Wilmington police officers are allowed by the courts to exercise their rights to collective bargaining. They formed the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge No. 1. Officers who had attempted this 30 years earlier were suspended from duty and told they would be fired unless they resigned membership in the FOP. 1968. It's April. The city of Wilmington is rocked with riots in the West Center City area for 3 days. Wilmington is occupied with National Guard troops for the next 9 months. From the late 1960s through the 1970s, the Wilmington Police undergo more modern training and equipment upgrades as the result of being caught off guard with the earlier civil unrest. 1974. Rita Draper is hired and is the first female to go through the police academy and serve in the patrol division, the same as her male counterparts. Rita retires in June of 2000 with the rank of captain. 1989. After 75 years, the Wilmington Police moved their operations from 10th and French Streets to a new headquarters located at 4th and Walnut Streets. 1992. In world affairs, the United States and Russia sign a treaty officially ending the Cold War. In Wilmington, Delaware, Samuel Pratcher becomes the first African American police chief in the history of the Wilmington Police Department. 1994. The Wilmington Police Department receives accreditation for the first time. This means that the department complies with the standards that were established in 1979 by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement. 2001. After a decade of the worst crime trend in the city's history, the Wilmington Police make a return to basics. The officers are assigned to standard patrol shifts. and even return to the traditional black and white police cars. Modern equipment is now with the department to stay. Police cars are equipped with laptop computers. The radio room implements new technology. And the Wilmington Police Department is reaccredited by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement.